I can't believe it's been almost 5 years since the last camera release. That's crazy.
The R5 is that big deal of a release now.
You know, the weight on the shoulders of Canon for this, that's a lot of pressure. This thing has to be awesome.
Sometimes the camera starts to overheat. That is one of the downsides.
There is no alternative. This is the new flagship. The expectations the world is going to have on this camera are staggering.
The more shooting that you do, you're gonna have to wait.
It's just going to come down to one thing. Is it better than the first one? And it has to be. It has to be. Almost 5 years later. Almost 5 years. And we finally have a new R5 Mark II. The Canon are always just a little bit longer to bring their cameras out than other manufacturers. I would even argue it's harder to compete now in the camera market than it was 5 years ago, because everything is just that good. So you can imagine the pressure on Canon's shoulders to bring out two flagship models on the same day, no less, the R5 Mark II and the Canon R1, which is in another video that we will link at the end of this. You can find it in the description. But this is the R5 Mark II. Everyone that clicked on this video just want to know immediately what's different, what's new, is it worth the hype, what has been updated. There is a completely new full frame back illuminated stacked CMOS sensor, and that's coming in at 45 megapixels. The sensor has an incredibly fast signal readout, and that's to help alleviate the rolling shutter concerns. And that's going to get you up to 30 frames per second electronic shutter performance. Dual pixel intelligent AF. You've got advancements in the autofocus technology, which includes the eye control autofocus, but they're also giving you the ability to continuously track a subject, even if another subject gets in front of the original subject that you're tracking. That could be massively useful. You're watching someone walk, a crowd goes in front, you're still able to track the original subject behind what passed in front of the frame. This would be good for automotive. You're tracking a car, people, or another car goes in front, but it maintains lock on the original subject. 8K RAW at 60 FPS, and you can capture in Canon Log 2. Previously, Log 2 were most of the cinema cameras. They didn't have those options on the R5 or a smaller camera, but now you've got C-Log 3 and C-Log 2. 24-bit 4-channel audio. You've got dual shooting, still and movie. As you're filming videos, you can fire off pictures without interrupting the video shooting process. In-camera upscaling and neural network noise reduction. I'm literally reading this one straight off the page. It is a very adjective-heavy explanation, all to probably just say the noise reduction's better. But where I did notice a significant increase in that, to its credit, was in the video. A lot of what we shot in that attic the other day with Matt Barnes was very dark. We didn't have any lights, there were very few windows, and typically the R5 I would work in those conditions, but you get that muddy, kind of mushed black. That was always a downfall of the R5 I did not see any of that with this camera. Those blacks are much cleaner, crisper, and deeper and richer than the original version of this camera. And then you've got the same dust and water resistance as the R5, so nothing has been added there. All the seals and ratings for that are exactly the same. There are actually 3 battery grips available to expand the capabilities, if you will, of the R5 II. You've got your standard grip that holds 2 LPE6s. You've got the Ethernet grip that has a full-size Ethernet port for transferring images quickly. Maybe if you're on set, you're shooting tethered and you wanna just like Ethernet in and dump all those photos in an instant to a DIT, something like that. That's probably where that would come in handy. And the third grip being the cooling grip, which is basically a fan within a battery grip. It sucks in a ton of air through the grills on the front and dumps it all out of a vent on the side. Now, when this fan is going and it is full crank, it dumps a ton of, you could literally cool your own face with the amount of air coming out of this. When you're rolling and that fan is full pump, there's even a warning that says the fan may be picked up by the audio. So you can turn the fan off and on, but you have to do that from the menu. There is no physical switch on this grip anywhere to turn it on or deactivate it. Since we're talking about the battery grip, the door opens kind of like a garage now. You've got 2 batteries that both just drop inside. Now, a note on the batteries. These are the LPE6 Ps. So your LPE6 batteries that we all have 100 of, they will work, but certain features will not be unlocked if you're not using the P version. Maybe they made that for Peter. Or the P could stand for profit because we all have to now buy new batteries. And what I mean by that is the fan in this battery grip will not work unless you have the new batteries. There's also certain record modes that will not work unless you have the new batteries. So it's fair to say if you were buying an R5 II in 2024, buy a stack of the new LPE6 Ps. Ask me how I know. One of the features on this, which is nice, which is while you're recording, there's an indicator of how hot the camera's getting. We found that extremely useful while shooting Matt Barnes in a 45°C attic all day. It was so hot up there with 5-6 people in an abandoned house on one of the hottest days of summer. It was 35 degrees outside. Going from the attic to the outdoors was fogging our cameras. That's how hot it was upstairs. We only had the fan going for about half of that shoot because we realized you need LPE6 Ps to keep it going, so we just had to rely on it. It did not overheat. That problem seems put to bed. Again, had there been no fan from the beginning, don't know. So that's the cooling accessory, that's the overheating. For everything we shot during the Matt Barnes shoot, I didn't notice any significant IBIS wobble at all. That's not to say it's not there, but I didn't notice that very specific warp. You know, camera shake is one thing, but it's the warping of the background that makes it look like you're in another dimension. That was seriously an issue with the R5 I. So that second issue of mine remedied. There's some physical differences like the on-off switch. You've also now got a physical dial that's moving from photo to video much better than the way they had it set up in the R5. So that for me is a big win. You've got a dedicated record button up top, swivel screen, like we're all used to. Not much has changed on that front, just a couple of tweaks that make things a little bit faster. And that is mostly the R5 Mark II packaged up. And as of the moment that I'm recording this, I don't know the costs on the camera or the grip or any of the accessories. But if I do get those costs before I post this video, I'll throw them up on the screen here. Shooting with it, we didn't run into any issues. This is also a sample model, so I was trying to keep that in mind while I was using it, but I had no glitches, nothing stopped, I didn't have to pop the batteries out. I was able to shoot a couple photos with it now. I don't have the camera raw support, so they were only JPEGs, but like here's one of them. Looks great. Rich Canon color that we're used to seeing in these cameras. Now, when we were filming those videos without lights, in like the low light setting, speaking to the noise reduction, we had it on auto ISO, so there was times it was going from 12,000 ISO up to 25,000 ISO. ISO. There were several shots that we did use that were visibly noisy. That's because we still had the ND filter on in the dark. Final thoughts with the R5 Mark II. It's twofold. Part of me, like, I wish there were even more updates to it. I wish there were more exciting features that just absolutely destroyed minds and blew up the internet. But at the same time, I think the world has changed, and in that the industry has also changed, whereas everything is so good now that I don't think any manufacturer could do anything that would blow minds at this point. Like, we're all so used to being spoiled with the most insane stats. What I think this is Canon catching up to the game for sure. Could there still be improvements? Absolutely. But is it a massive leap forward from the original camera? Yeah, I think so. If I had an R5, would I upgrade to the R5 II? I would personally upgrade for the noise reduction with the video. That for me is enough of a feature to upgrade. And I'm primarily using things for photography reasons. Obviously I do a lot of video, this channel, etc. But photography is usually where I look and get most excited for stats. But just the low light noise reduction on its own would be enough for me to upgrade. The 8K RAW 60, that's nice. I don't shoot much that requires me to film in RAW. That just destroys hard drive space and ends up costing me money, and I'm just making YouTube videos for the most part. If I was using this for more production reasons, then that would be huge. I would shoot probably a lot more in RAW, but I just don't really find that I have much use for that. The cooling grip is nice. I'd love to see a backwards compatible cooling grip that could go on the R5 I. But I can honestly say the issues I had with the first camera have been resolved in the second camera. And that's what I like to see. I can't really ask for much more than that. We all know the autofocus system within Canon is insane. The color science is insane. The range of glass is insane. Like, we finally got the 35mm RF. That took a while. Now we just need the 24mm RF 1.4. That was always my favorite lens. Once that comes out, I feel like I would have the full range of glass that suits anything I could throw at it. They've got pretty much every base covered. Hell, you've even got the lenses that can film content for Vision Pro. Now, things that I wish there was a global shutter. I think that's a bit of a miss. I don't know if they got the back illuminated sensor that's stacked to help with rolling shutter, but the global shutter would have just been, I think, the move. So ultimately, I think it's a win for Canon. But is it enough? Like, what can really be done these days? And that goes across the whole board. Tons of manufacturers make amazing cameras. They're all amazing. So I wonder, like, what's next? How do you do better? What would an R5 III look like? What would the R1 look like? Well, you can find out because I just posted that video as well. So if you're watching this months later, if you're watching this day one, go check out the R1 video because maybe that camera suits you better than this camera does. Thank you, Canon, for sending this to me with some time to play around with it. This is a pre-production model. It's a sample, so it's not the finished version. I don't know when the fully finished version ships. I know that I'm shipping this back now because I don't get to keep this, sadly. It's going back. So maybe it's going to someone else to review. But I had fun. I hope you guys got some insight. I hope you got to see kind of like some capabilities of it. Got to hear about the specs, see it in its form, see some B-roll. And I hope it was helpful. Will it be my vlog camera moving forward? My everyday driver, my daily driver? Yes, it will be. R5 II. See ya. This time, I've got more than a press release. I've got in my hands the new flagship EOS R1. And I think I like the R5